Welcome to Terror in Tandem, a podcast about finding entertainment in the macabre, hosted by the knowledgeable and lovable Laura and Richard Mathiasen. Each episode, we discuss the horror genre, from books to film to TV and beyond, sometimes even from the beyond. You can find us online at terrorintandem.com and on Instagram at terrorintandem.
Hey.
Hello.
So, would you rather be if you could only be one, would you rather be knowledgeable?
Lovable.
You'd rather be lovable than
Yeah,
knowledgeable?
of course.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So you're a Hufflepuff?
Yes, I've always been.
I think I'm a Ravenclaw.
Yeah, well, I think you're a Slytherin.
Ooh. Why?
Cunning.
Really? Oh God. I mean, I'm flattered. I would never describe myself as cunning. I feel
No,
like,
you're not.
yeah, I'm like a brick.
I think you would probably be Gryffindor because of your brain.
And my heroism?
No.
Well, then Ravenclaw, right? You know, smart but kind of a dick.
Oh, yeah.
Hey, come on.
That's it.
You got to read those books.
Do I?
I mean, at this point, not really. No.
I've listened to them.
Yeah, it's like enough in the culture that I feel like you can.
And I've watched
everybody
all the
kinda-
movies.
Yeah, even if you haven't, you sort of know what it is.
So how are you?
Oh, I'm doing good. I mean, I'm still a little tired, honestly, from.
Long COVID?
I don't think it's that, thank goodness, but
COVID that's been lasting a long time.
it's just it's the guest that won't leave. It's like everyone else has gone home and it is going through your photo albums.
Yeah, or come on. Can't you tell? I've yawned so many times. I've put my pajamas on.
Yeah.
If I've brushed
Party's
my
over.
teeth,
Yeah.
it's time to go.
The warehouse rave that is my destroyed body is closed. Leave. Go away. But like, I'm not sick anymore, so that's good. I'm just,
Residuals.
Yeah. But happy to be here and doing this because
Maeve's residuals.
this is like my favorite thing. Oh, yeah. That was that bar we used to go
I
to
know.
in North Hollywood. North Hollywood,
No.
right? Studio City?
Yeah.
Oh, it's like right on the border. Oh, Maeve's Residuals. That's a free plug for you.
I think they've closed.
Oh, for real?
Yeah, I think Lauren said that.
Shit.
Yeah.
Bummer. Hey, Lauren.
So, Mamma Mia, here we go again.
Welcome to our ABBA retrospective.
No, this is our a monthly episode that we do every month,
Welcome to our monthlies.
talking about what we're looking forward to in the coming month. And this month is September.
Why don't you tell us, for those of us who aren't familiar with September, a little bit about September?
So, September, commonly known as the 9th month, the going back to school month.
Yeah, for sure.
Really, although fall doesn't start until ways into September, I think a lot of people associate September with fall.
For sure. Yeah. I always, the season starts on the 21st. That's like way too late. By December 21st, it has been winter for a long time. You know what I mean?
I mean, in September, though, there can be, 90-degree days.
That's what I'm,
in the middle of September.
Yeah, but
They call it Indian summer.
Yeah.
Which, how about just summer? It's
Or
still
just
summer.
Climate change.
No, it's always been that way.
Yeah, no, for sure.
Sometimes, you can't predict. When I was
Unless
in
you live
school,
in-
you couldn't predict what the first day of school weather was going to be like. So you had to have a couple of first day back outfits planned out.
Unless you live in Southern California, and then it is just
Always
no different.
Well, one thing about September is, like I said, back to school and all of those things. But I've been reading a lot of comments online that everybody is calling August. People are getting summer scaries. You ever hear of Sunday scaries? Of when?
Have I ever heard of them?
So now people are saying they're getting summer scaries. Because August and the last couple of weeks of August is all about having to go back to school and having to, no more summer vacations, no more.
I mean, that's something that I always really enjoy whenever a new generation reaches the age where they are, writing things and, contributing to the culture, which happens earlier and earlier now with social media. But, it's like when they start putting names to things that people have always experienced, and they're like, oh, God, look at this new thing, the August Scaries. And I'm like, yeah, it's called
Summer Scaries.
Summer Scaries, yeah. It's just, I used to call it not wanting to go back to school because I fucking hated going to school.
Yeah, but you would have loved to have it be Summer Scaries.
For sure. I think it's awesome. And I hear that. I also have like complicated feelings about September because, like I said, never liked going back to school, but I love the weather and the leaves, from the Northeast. So like the changing leaves and all that. It's spectacular.
Yeah, I like, as we get through August, I like the promise of fall and winter.
Oh, yeah.
I like winter. No one else does, but I do.
Well, it's just we react differently to the cold.
Yeah, I love it. You hate it.
You've got that Polish background. I've got that spicy Italiano. And that sounds like a sitcom. Yeah.
So, September, what are we looking forward to?
I've got a pretty diverse list.
Okay. Well, why don't you start then?
Although I'm going to level with you, they are all horror.
Oh, yeah, mine too.
Oh, good.
That's good. We're in the right podcast.
Is this the right pod?
I think so.
I have so many. God, so many. I still have to do research for our ABBA podcast. Anyway, my first one, I'm just going to go in order. September 5th.
Me too.
Neat. September 5th, coming out. It's a video game. It is The Last of Us.
Oh.
More specifically, The Last of Us Part 1. And more specifically than that, The Last of Us Part 1 Remake.
Huh.
And even more specifically, it's the second remake of this game. Let me clarify. So The Last of Us is a survival horror survival horror action narrative game by Naughty Dog, which is the studio that does the Uncharted games. They're great. It's an amazing game. It first came out for the PlayStation 3.
Wow, long time.
Yeah, then it was remastered for the PlayStation 4, which is where I played it many times.
I know it, like, most notably, at least from what you've told me, is that it's very evocative.
Yes. Hardest I've ever cried at a video game.
Wow.
Oh, yeah. I mean, it wrecked me.
I thought you cried the hardest when you were playing The Sims.
I never played The Sims.
Well,
but now I'm just envisioning a scenario.
Nobody would be friends with you in The Sims, so you shut it down.
Oh, bummer. I can't even make the avatars my friends.
Exactly.
I'm trying to envision.
You're the only Sims person to ever be bullied.
There was a part of the Mass Effect games where I inadvertently doomed an entire species to extinction and felt pretty bad about that. But anyway, The Last of Us. So, for those of you that don't know, it is a story about the end of the world. So there's a plague of sorts that is like fungal based. It's like a mushroom plague. It's called the cordyceps plague, which cordyceps is actually a real kind of mushroom. So it kills people, and it also turns them into like mushroom monsters. Not like Super Mario style, but like scary. So they're super aggressive zombie types. They bite you, you get infected, you turn into one, blah, blah, blah. So the game starts with the main character, Joel, voiced by the legendary Troy Baker, in maybe one of his best roles. So it starts with him as the shit's going down, basically. And then it picks up like a decade or so later, and you see the effects that this has had on society, which is... it's ruined it. Mm-hmm. So Joel is now, he's become from a normal guy before the end times. He's now like a hardened smuggler. There are sort of warring factions in this new world. There's the remnants of the government forces. And then there's a rebel group called the Fireflies. Mm. Now, the story of The Last of Us is Joel gets hired to smuggle a young girl named Ellie, played by Ashley Johnson, who is another incredible voice actor, and also, like live actor. She's in, folks might know her from Critical Role. But so Ellie is like a 13-year-old girl with a secret, And basically, they travel across this ruined country to deliver her to the Fireflies. And as they go, they encounter dangers, and their bond deepens. But the gameplay is incredible. It's so emotional. It's a really narrative, story-driven experience, and it's morally very complex.
Yeah.
There are no real winners in this kind of environment. But the remaster for the PlayStation 5 and Windows, it adds a lot of cool stuff, most especially in the visual department, like ray tracing and new particle physics, and it just looks amazing.
Gotta get that PlayStation 5.
Yeah, if you can get your hands on one, right? The white whale.
Is it white too?
It is actually.
Huh, nice.
But I meant like Moby Dick.
No, I know.
Yeah.
But it's actually white.
It is white. Yeah.
So
Nice.
aptly named.
So one thing I do want to mention, Naughty Dog has gone back and added a ton of accessibility features for this game. They've already been pretty ahead of the curve on stuff like that, but now they're going back and
like visually and hearing impaired accessibility features?
Exactly.
Nice.
I think they're adding something like over 60 new accessibility features.
Oh, that's great.
Text-to-speech, things like that, narration. It's really excellent. It's a great trend that is happening across gaming that is a long time coming.
For sure.
It certainly is. But that's community driven, and I shit on social media a lot, and I should, but that is something beneficial, is a lot of disabled gamers making their voices heard through social media and game streaming, and showing the studios that they buy games too.
Absolutely.
So I would love that. I think that's fantastic. And you can be cynical and say, oh, it's a remake. I get that, but this is what keeps the game alive. The original game came out a decade ago. Now a new generation, younger gamers coming up and playing these things, experiencing it for the first time. I'm all for it.
Why
Sure,
not?
they're going to make a ton of money, but it's a great game.
Bring it up to speed.
Yeah.
It's like if you have software and you have to bring your computer up to that software level, it's the same thing.
I think if you've never played it before, this is probably the version to try. And for people like me that have played the hell out of it, honestly, I'm probably going to do it again. It is worth it. And the sequel, in my opinion, another masterpiece. Really, again, narratively very gray and tough.
Are they remastering that?
I mean, eventually, I imagine they probably will. I think they've updated. It came out for the PS4 and they've updated it for the PS5. But games like this, they're cultural phenomena. So as technology gets better, I'm sure they'll revisit it.
Awesome.
Anyway, yeah, September 5th. Check it out, Last of Us. And one last mention is the TV show coming out on HBO in 2023. It's got Pedro Pascal is playing Joel, and Bella Ramsey from Game of Thrones. She was Lyanna Mormont, that badass little girl. Yeah.
She's not a little girl anymore.
No, but
teenager, right?
She's playing Ellie.
Yeah, nice.
Very, very cool. And Ellie, the character, her mannerisms and character model was based off of Ellen Page before she became Elliot. So this is way, way back. And Ellen Page, quite famously, was not happy about that because they didn't talk to her about it. But if you play through the game, it does look like a young Ellen Page, the character of Ellie.
When you get PlayStation 5, do you get to name the units? Do you get to give them a name?
No. It's not like a role playing customizable game.
I don't mean the game. I mean like a PlayStation 5. Do you get to name it?
I don't know what you mean. Do I get to name the unit itself?
Yes.
I suppose nothing's stopping me from doing so.
Because you could call it the Albatross. Because Moby Dick.
As it's hanging around my neck.
And Moby Dick.
And dooming my ship.
The white whale.
Yeah.
Okay, so on to mine.
I guess. No, let's do it.
Coming out September 6th.
Next day.
Fairy Tale by Stephen King.
Yeah.
So a new book by Stephen King.
Who?
I know, like we haven't talked about it. I'm really excited for this because it sounds like it's got all of those magical fantasy images and tropes that I love when Stephen King explores.
You do like the Talisman.
I do.
Yeah.
And even, some of the like time travel.
Insomnia. Oh yeah. 2263.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I love all that. Anyway, so let me give you a brief synopsis. The book is about Charlie, who is a high school student, and he's just a regular student. His mom was killed in a hit and run accident when he was 10, and his father's now like a pretty severe alcoholic because of grief. And Charlie is the caretaker of he and his dad. When he's 17, he meets a dog named Radar, and his owner, Howard Bowditch, is a recluse, and he lives in a big house on the top of a hill. So Charlie starts doing odd jobs for him, and he falls in love with Radar, the dog. And then Bowditch dies. He leaves Charlie a cassette tape telling him a story about what is inside of this shed on his property. Essentially, it's a portal to another world. And there's like, monsters and peril and its own world. And
oh my God,
it's like a parallel universe.
This is like
2 moons. And
my ultimate fantasy.
yeah. So essentially, he goes into this world. It's a story that is mythical, and it's about an ordinary kid forced into a hero's role, which is a similar, like a trope that
it's a
Stephen King
real
has
Joseph
many
Campbell vibe.
times. Yeah. When during the pandemic, Stephen King asked himself, what could I write that would make me like super happy? And this
while
was
everyone
it.
else was trying to bake banana bread.
Yeah, this was it. And
Yeah.
he said he saw this like vast deserted city, but it was alive. He saw empty streets and a gargoyle head laying overturned in this street. And I saw smashed statues of what he didn't know, but eventually found out. And he saw a palace with glass towers so high their tips pierced the clouds. And so those are the images that drove him to want to tell this story.
Wow.
And
I ask myself the same question. The answer is usually a bag of chips.
And so if you're interested in this, again, it comes out September 6th. But,
I am interested.
On the publisher's webpage, Simon & Schuster, I believe, is the publisher. Stephen King has a YouTube video that he reads a full chapter.
Oh, for real?
Yeah.
Oh, I love that.
So if you
That's
want to
great.
hear him read a full chapter,
I do.
Jump right in. But fairy tale.
I am looking forward to that. It's got kind of a Neil Gaiman vibe to it. Like discovering alternate universe.
Yeah.
I love that shit.
Sure, there's going to be a lot of horror in it too.
I mean, that is a fantasy of mine. Like, an old person kicks it and leaves you a mystery that you have to unravel, and it's something like you could never imagine.
I guess there's a bunch of gold he leaves too.
What?
Yeah.
Even better.
But maybe the gold is from this ancient parallel universe.
Can I tell you a weird story? So my grandfather, before he passed, he had a really debilitating stroke that left him aphasic. I mean, he couldn't really communicate. All the words were nonsense. So I guess like right before he died, he mumbled something about gold in the backyard. And that led my crazy family to dig holes all over the backyard.
Oh boy.
Didn't find any gold. Did find a lot of dirt and worms. I guess the moral of the story is if someone is heavily aphasic and says something, don't take it literally.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's literally what that condition is. So anyway, you want to take a break?
Okay.
Let's do it. Getting away with literal murder takes skills. And baby, you've got them. But when it comes to crafting the perfect costume, well, let's just say your talents lie elsewhere. Maybe mommy never taught you to sew before you killed her and stole her face. Maybe you have knives for hands or husky meat paws, perfect for bashing campers, but not so great at threading a needle. But that doesn't mean you don't deserve to look cool. So come on down to Tears of a Clown Makeup and Costume Emporium and treat yourself to the obscene makeover your parents always suspected was hiding just beneath the surface. At Tears of a Clown Makeup and Costume Emporium, we look past your tired flesh suit to bring out the real you. Working together to determine your nightmare-inducing look, our team of sartorial sadists will assist you with all the fittings, measurements, and elective surgeries. So save your creativity for your ironic kill tableaus. From sloppy clown fits to demonic priest and everything in between, we guarantee a look to satisfy the monster within. If you're unhappy with your look, come on back in and we'll straight up kill you. Be sure to ask about our Cenobite special. Get one half of your head riveted with nails, get the other half free. This is a fake ad for a fake product on a horror-themed podcast. Dressing up is cool, hurting people is not. Seriously, I shouldn't have to tell you this.
Mamma mia, here we go again.
Oh my God. What is with you? This is nuts.
We're back from the commercial break, and we're in for your second recommendation.
And I don't know who you are anymore. Mine? It's me, right?
Yeah,
me?
we're in for your second
Oh,
recommendation.
when you said your, you literally meant me. Okay, got it. Mine, next one, going from video games.
Mamma mia.
Oh, boy. Just the dancing queen.
Here we go again.
My next one is a book, because I can read too. And it is Daphne by Josh Malerman. Now, Josh Malerman is...
You're lucky you got this one.
He's a new favorite of ours, for sure.
You got all the... I got Fairy Tale,
Uh-huh.
but you got two.
That you wanted?
Yeah.
You got two that I wanted. But the great thing is we get to do all this stuff together.
Yeah.
Yay. Sorry you had to
Hurry up.
witness that, everyone, that terrible fight. So Daphne by Josh Malerman. Yeah, like I said, he's a new favorite the last few years for your beloved hosts. You most likely know him from Bird Box, which was turned into a movie with Sandra Bullock. He's also written Black Mad Wheel, Unbury Carol, House at the Bottom of Lake. He's just a lot of great stuff. Check out Josh Malerman for sure. Interesting guy. He got his start as a rock musician, which he still is, and then became a writer. Was writing while he was touring, and I feel like that usually goes in the opposite direction. Like I feel like writers, they always kind of secretly want to be rock stars. Like Stephen King's in a band with a bunch of other writers. He is.
Yeah, I believe it.
Yeah, but anyway, so Daphne it's described as a slasher novel. It's coming out on September 20th by Penguin Random House. The story is a young high school senior named Kit Lamb. It's the last summer before she goes to college, and she's out with her high school basketball team and her best friend Dana. Now,
you have a best friend, Dana.
I do. Shout out to Dana, my best friend and oldest friend. And I don't mean that age-wise. I mean just in terms of how long we've been friends. Hi, Dana. So anyway, yeah. So Kit and Dana, they're out with their basketball team. It's the last summer before college. The team starts telling stories. Someone tells a story about Daphne, who's a girl that went to the same school years ago, died under mysterious circumstances. Some people think she was murdered. Some people say she killed herself. But, the story is she's out there. She's obsessed. She's going to appear, blah, blah, blah. It's like a Bloody Mary type thing. Difference is, after Kit hears the story, people start disappearing one by one, like real classic style. So Kit starts to think that the stories about Daphne aren't stories, that they're real. And she also starts to think that she might be the cause of it. I'm not going to give any more away because I feel like that is a little bit of a twist. But I'm recommending this purely based on Josh Malerman's name.
Oh, yeah.
He's one of those writers now where I don't even really need to read
He builds tension so well.
Yeah.
Well.
I don't need to read the book jacket. I'm just, new Josh Malerman.
I'll read it.
I'm reading it. But you're absolutely right. He's excellent at building tension. He's got a little bit of a Stephen King vibe, although I feel like you can say that about just about any horror
he does
writer.
definitely do really weaves a whole tale. I mean, Bird Box didn't have a lot of characters.
But it was very tense.
House at the Bottom of the Lake didn't have a lot of characters.
You're right. He's good at telling intimate stories.
Mm-hmm.
Especially Bird Box was like an intimate character drama between a mother and her two young kids with this grand story in the background.
Mm-hmm.
That Black Mad Wheel also was a small cast of characters in a larger grand story that was really interesting and strange.
Yeah, the tension building is
that
really,
book,
really excellent.
You could really tell his musical background in Black Mad Wheel. Anyway, Daphne, coming out September 20th.
Awesome. I can't wait.
Yeah. His books are also a real quick read, too. They move at a pace. So
yeah.
It's I feel like, great way to end the summer.
So my next two books, one is called The Weight of Blood, and it's coming out September 6th. I don't know about this book, but I wanted to mention it because of the synopsis is intriguing to me. So
Okay.
I don't know anything about this writer, Tiffany D. Jackson.
That's Tiffany D. Jackson.
Yeah.
Of course.
The novel takes place as a reimagining of Stephen King's classic Carrie.
Interesting. Look at that.
But she turns it into a commentary on American racism. So the author considers this a work of like a social thriller.
So this...
It's being called a social thriller.
So read this one before they ban it, if you're in Florida.
The story is about Maddie. She has like a similar vibe as Carrie White in the sense that she's bullied. She's like humble and meek and quiet and isolated, but she's also passing as a white girl. So Maddie is a mixed race girl, and she passes as white, but her mixed parentage becomes known, and the bullying turns into outright racism at the school. So the school she attends has always had two proms, a black and a white prom. But the bad press that it's been getting lately, and some students push to integrate the prom. So we all know what happens in the book Carrie at the prom. So I think, and I sort of stopped reading the synopsis after that, I think there's going to be some similar happenings at this prom as in original work of Carrie, but it's going to be shrouded in more like racial, outright, horrific aggression. And I don't think that the character of Maddie is telekinetic or anything like that. So I don't think that it is going to have the supernatural element, although I'm not 100% sure. But it is going to be more of a social thriller, as the author says, about the abuse and racism that this character is being driven to, probably madness.
God, that's one of my favorite, and it always has been, but especially in the last 15 years or so, it's one of my favorite things about horror as a genre is it is such a fascinating vehicle in which to explore all sorts of things.
Yeah.
To process traumas, to
Absolutely.
process experiences that the writers, directors, the cast that you've had.
It sounds like...
And to discuss things through a lens that might be more palatable to the public. You know, like you kind of trick them into the theater and then get them thinking.
Well, what it seems like to me, and I don't know much about the author, like I said, is that the author identified these probably feelings of isolation and otherness in the original work of Carrie and, translated it to how people of color are treated.
Yeah.
And often, especially somebody who is of, mixed parentage, as the author has said about the character of Maddie, of where you may not feel like you fit in to white society or black society.
Sure. Yeah. I mean, that's
So
a
those
that's a
struggles.
common thing you hear in immigrant stories, especially first generation.
Yeah.
That not feeling welcome or not feeling quite a part of either world or having a foot in both worlds. For sure. Oh wow, that sounds really interesting.
So the other book, and that's why I wanted to sort of do these combos together, because
Combos.
the other book is a anthology, so it's a collection of short stories that comes out on September 20th, called Isolation, the horror anthology.
Isolation.
And there's probably maybe, I don't know, 14 horror authors that contribute to the anthology. M.R. Carey is one of them. He wrote The Girl with All the Gifts.
Yeah.
Ken Liu wrote The Paper Menagerie and The Wall of Storms.
He also wrote the comic run on Lucifer that spun out of Sandman.
Awesome.
Mike Carey, yeah.
Paul Tremblay wrote Cabin at the End of the World and Head
Paul
Full of
Tremblay.
Ghosts.
Yeah.
And so they're among some of the contributors to this anthology.
Some real pedigree there.
Yeah. So the whole theme is isolation. So being lost in the wilderness.
What's that?
Or being shunned from society.
Something I think we can all relate to these days.
Yes. So this horror anthology writes to confront those dark moments of feeling isolated and alone. Challenges that have to be faced when you're the only one that is going to face it. So I think there's a hiker lost in the woods, an astronaut adrift in deep space, a prisoner with no hope of escape. So I think those are the types of horror short stories that we're going to see in this anthology. And I just thought it was a really interesting idea. And I want to check it out for sure, because there's a lot of great authors and some that I don't know of, and that might, entice me into reading more of their works.
That's the best thing about an anthology. Absolutely. I mean, it's how I got into so many authors when I was a teenager. I'd read these anthologies that were edited by famous horror authors, and you just, back in the day, I'd get catalogs and circle their names and order the books and things like that. It's awesome. All right. So my last one is a movie. So I just want to say, proud of myself here. Got a video game, got a book, got a movie. No matter what you like.
Wow, look at you.
I got you covered, y'all. I got you covered.
Branching out.
Branching out. So my movie, I'm really looking forward to this, and I hope it's good. Don't Worry, Darling. Directed by Olivia Wilde.
I'm also looking very forward to it.
It's a Warner Brothers release, and it's coming out September 23rd. And even though it's Warner Brothers, it is still coming out. I know that's a concern these days. So Don't Worry, Darling began its life as a Blacklist script. Do you know what those are?
Yes.
For anyone who doesn't, there's this thing in Hollywood called the Blacklist. It's sort of began life as an unofficial list. I think it's official now. Just basically the best unproduced screenplays out there. Screenplays everyone really likes, but they haven't been made yet. So Olivia Wilde optioned this one. Had it rewritten, as is usually the case, and directed it. So what was her debut? Was it Booksmart?
Yes.
Right. So she's
as a director.
As a director. Now Olivia Wilde, is really great. Has shown some real talent as a director, and I'm fascinated that she's going down a genre route for her next movie. So the kind of synopsis of this is Florence Pugh plays a woman named Alice, and she's married to Harry Styles as Jack. I'll give everybody a second. So Alice and Jack, they takes place in the 1950s. They're a young married couple. They move to this planned community of Victory out in the desert, and it's all tied to Jack's job working for Chris Pine. Give everybody another second. So Chris Pine has this he's doing this sort of very mysterious scientific project that the men of this community are working on, and it being the 1950s, the women are left behind to keep the house, to keep up appearances, things like that. So Alice starts to notice things are kind of weird. There's a real Stepford Wives vibe, an uncanny Twilight Zone, uncanny Valley vibe of like everything looks perfect, but there's something going on. Seems to be like a lot of gaslighting of the women of, just don't ask questions. And some of the women seem to be like aware that something's wrong, but they don't want to break the perfect veneer of their lives. So a lot of paranoia, a lot of Cold War themes. Love Florence Pugh.
I mean, the whole cast looks great.
The cast is incredible. Yeah, I mean, top to bottom, it's a great cast. Olivia Wilde plays a role in it as well. I'm a huge fan of Florence Pugh. I think she's just enormously talented. Really looking. I also really like Harry Styles. I mean, for all the obvious reasons, but I think he's incredibly talented as an actor as well.
He is.
Yeah. He's like a do-it-all kind of talent, and I'm really excited. He's like one of those annoying people that's great at everything.
Yeah.
And also gorgeous.
Nick Kroll is in it as well.
Yeah.
And Timothy Simmons, who's from Veep.
From Veep, Jonad.
Yep.
Very, very funny, talented guy. I'm really looking forward to it. The trailer is so cool.
Yeah. It looks great. It looks expansive. It looks very stylized. Which I'm super jazzed about.
As someone who was born in the 80s and raised by folks who were born in the 50s, I have very strong feelings about the 50s. A lot of that stuff was really jammed down my throat as a kid, the culture and the sort of idealized culture of that era. I have a real different opinion of that time. So I love me a movie that looks set to take apart some of the issues of that era.
Yeah, it is definitely, what exists on the outside may not be true for what exists on the inside.
I mean, it's a wonderful time period for this sort of storytelling because the real life of that time was a beautiful facade covering a dark underbelly.
Absolutely.
And,
even how these communities were established.
I feel like that was America up until recently, and the difference is the facade fell. So one thing I want to mention about this movie is, I'm sure everyone's heard the controversy, blah, blah, blah. I don't give a shit. Shia LaBeouf was originally cast in Harry Styles' role, and Olivia Wilde fired him for misbehaving, for just his general bad behavior and clashing with the cast, which a legit reason to fire somebody. Not shocking that Shia LaBeouf would be fired for that. Also kind of funny that Olivia Wilde fired somebody for misbehaving on the set of this movie, given everything else that went on. Seems like it was a tough shoot, but that doesn't mean it's going to be
according
a bad movie.
to what we've been hearing.
Yeah.
But it's not really been confirmed.
If the extent of the controversy is egotistical people acting like egotistical people, okay, that's
Let's
every
see
movie
how the
I've ever
movie
seen.
turns out.
Yeah, I'm really, really excited
Me
for this
too.
one. I can't wait.
So my last is also a movie. My last recommendation is also a movie. It's called Smile. Coming out September 30th.
I'm smiling.
The movie is about a psychiatrist named Rose, played by Sosie Bacon, who is the daughter of Kevin Bacon and Kira Sedgwick.
Oh, cool.
She's been in a lot. She's been working actress for a really long time. I think she's in her 30s.
God, I'm so old.
Mayor of Easttown, 13 Reasons Why. She was in both of those. Anyway, her character experiences a traumatic incident where her patient dies during a session. Although she doesn't quite understand what happened, she starts to experience the same odd behavior that the patient expressed, which was seeing people smile, not being happy about it, though. Smiling
it's like a
with
rictus.
an elongated,
Like the Joker.
Yes, a lack of expression in the eyes, sinister, like almost like an infection. And And so it's filled with all this frightening imagery. You could see it in the trailer, although I think the trailer probably gives away too much. But there's like a lot of characters screaming about someone's going to die and somebody's engulfed in flames. And you find out that Rose has 7 days, like, you know, the movie The Ring, after the incident with her patient before she succumbs to the evil as well. So it's a race to outrun, to find a cure, like The Ring. But also, I thought it had, and the director confirmed this, It Follows vibes. It had that sort of infection.
Yes.
You don't really know how.
A curse.
Yes.
Yeah.
Right. So, which I love.
Same.
It's written and directed by Parker Finn. It's his first full-length feature, so he's not really done anything that we would recognize.
A few years from now, we might be doing a Parker Finn deep dive.
We
Who
might.
knows?
But I think it looks like it has really great potential, and I'm really, really excited to see it. I really hope it pays off. But that's my last recommendation right at the end of September, and I'm super jazzed about it.
I'm like, you know, I don't know. It could go either way for sure, but I'm also really, really looking forward to this one. It hits a lot of buttons for me. I love curses. The idea of an evil that can infect you, that can be just like past, that's transmissible.
Yeah. Before you know it, before you even understand what's happening, you've got it.
Yes. And
it's so frightening.
The ticking clock of it is great.
Yeah,
and
I do love that.
But also taking
that has
something,
inherent tension, you know?
Yes. And taking something that seemingly isn't evil, like a smile, and making it scary. I like that too.
But
That
it can be evil. That's the whole thing.
Oh, yeah, for sure.
It really matters, you know, what do smiles cover. And I don't think the movie will probably explore the depth of it, but I am thinking now just out loud about sort of what we smile to cover and how you smile through pain and things like that. So I think it's definitely interesting. I'm excited to see it.
Americans, especially, we're kind of known internationally for smiling too much.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Or, you know, there's the whole thing where people tell women all the time that if you smile, you know, you look better when you smile. Why don't you smile more? Yeah. You look like more approachable when you smile.
Yeah.
And maybe that's going to be played into a little bit. Is this sinister smile, it makes people want to talk to you more, but then when you do engage, you become infected. So let's see what happens.
Like if you saw a shady figure looking at you with a blank expression, that's scary, but if they were straight up psycho smiling at you, that's even
really
scarier.
Scary.
Yeah.
Like
damn, I hope this movie rules. I can't wait.
So hopefully that will ease your September back to school.
Your August scaries?
Your August scaries a little bit.
Summer scaries,
yeah, right.
Sure.
Hopefully that'll ease your summer scaries a bit. We have a lot on the docket for September, so
be scared of fake things instead. That's more fun.
Exactly. But don't be scared to tune in next week.
Oh, that's awesome. Bye, everybody.
Terror in Tandem is written, produced, and recorded by Laura and Richard Mathiasen, and edited and mixed by Richard Mathiasen. Our theme was written and performed by Carrie Denver, and all other music was written and performed by David Hispanic. All opinions expressed on this podcast are our own and should be taken as such. Thanks for listening, and please remember to give us a like, a review, and subscribe wherever you get your podcasts. See you next time. We're still